What is going on, Browns fans? The air in Berea is absolutely electric, and things are getting serious as we head into mandatory minicamp. We've been watching the quarterback battle unfold, and there is a massive shift happening right in front of our eyes that nobody saw coming. The competition for the starting job is officially wide open, and the latest news coming out of the facility is going to change how you view this entire season. Are we witnessing a changing of the guard? You need to hear this update. Smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below before we dive in. Voluntary OTAs have officially concluded for the Cleveland Browns, shifting the entire focus toward the mandatory veteran minicamp scheduled for June 9th through June 11th. As the organization transitions into this next phase of the offseason, the spotlight is fixed squarely on the quarterback room. Specifically, all eyes are on Shedeur Sanders. He is currently gaining significant ground in a high-stakes competition against veteran Deshaun Watson. While reports indicated that Watson and new head coach Todd Monken had established a strong initial connection, the 30-year-old quarterback has faced genuine challenges finding consistent footing during the open OTA sessions. These documented struggles, combined with the steady development shown by Shedeur Sanders following the high-profile trade involving Myles Garrett and Jared Verse, suggests that the competitive balance is shifting. Throughout the voluntary sessions, Todd Monken rotated first-team repetitions between both signal callers, ensuring that both men received ample opportunities to demonstrate their command of the offensive scheme. However, the progression reached a notable milestone during the final OTA session accessible to the media. In that practice, it was Shedeur Sanders who took the field first for both of the team's 11-on-11 competitive periods. This specific usage, paired with his performance on the field, prompted public recognition from the coaching staff. Todd Monken noted that Shedeur Sanders has progressed effectively over the recent weeks, specifically highlighting a successful connection with receiver Isaiah Bond. As the team prepares for the mandatory minicamp, the progression of the quarterback battle remains the most significant storyline. The entire Dawg Pound is watching closely to see how the distribution of snaps evolves as the intensity of the summer program ramps up before the break in mid-July. The uncertainty surrounding the starting position remains a central theme as the Cleveland Browns approach the final days of organized activities before the mid-July hiatus. Todd Monken has publicly stated that his ideal scenario would involve having both the starting quarterback and the offensive line finalized by the time the team departs Berea on June 11th. However, the reality of the ongoing evaluation has created a more fluid situation than perhaps initially anticipated. When asked directly on Wednesday about the possibility of naming a starter by the June 11th deadline, Todd Monken expressed hesitation. He admitted he is not entirely certain the organization will be in a position to make that definitive call by the end of the mandatory minicamp. The head coach explained that his own perspective on the competition shifts on a daily basis, acknowledging that the evaluation process is constant and highly sensitive to the daily performances of both candidates. This admission underscores the fact that the battle between Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson is far from settled. Every session currently serves as a critical data point for the coaching staff. For the organization, this means that the decision-making process is ongoing, with no predetermined outcome based on seniority or contract status. While Deshaun Watson carries the weight of a significant financial commitment, the focus for Todd Monken is clearly on the immediate effectiveness of the offense. The lack of a firm deadline implies that the competition could potentially extend well into the training camp period, forcing both quarterbacks to maintain high levels of output throughout the summer. The coaching staff is clearly prioritizing a thorough assessment over an early commitment, keeping the depth chart unsettled as they work to identify the best fit for the team's upcoming campaign. Why does this matter right now for the team? The ongoing competition between Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson is not merely a training camp subplot. It represents a fundamental question regarding the immediate trajectory of the Cleveland Browns. As the team prepares for the mandatory minicamp, the distribution of reps serves as a direct indicator of the coaching staff's current confidence levels. For an organization looking to establish consistency, the inability to name a starter before the mid-July break highlights a lack of separation between the two candidates. Neither player has displayed the level of dominance required to comfortably secure the job, as both have experienced periods of brilliance interrupted by periods of inconsistency and inaccurate ball placement during the sessions open to reporters. This matters because the offense requires stability to function effectively, and the lack of a clear leader impacts the rhythm of the receiving corps and the cohesion of the offensive line. Furthermore, the age gap between the two contenders adds another layer of complexity. Shedeur Sanders is 6 years younger than Deshaun Watson, a factor that naturally aligns his development more closely with the team's long-term roster construction. If the younger quarterback continues to gain steam and earns an equal split of the snaps during the mandatory minicamp, it confirms that the competition is closer than the hierarchy might suggest. Even if Deshaun Watson ultimately begins the season as the starter due to his $46 million salary, the presence of an ascending competitor like Shedeur Sanders ensures that the situation will remain volatile. The team cannot afford a prolonged stagnation at the position, making every snap in the upcoming 3-day minicamp vital for the overall offensive identity of the franchise moving forward. The upcoming 3-day mandatory minicamp is positioned as the final major evaluation window for the coaching staff before the extended break. Because Todd Monken has indicated that the each day that changes nature of the quarterback evaluation is a reality, the volume of work assigned to Shedeur Sanders will be the primary metric for observers. If he is tasked with an equal share of the first-team reps, it serves as tangible proof that the organization is treating the position as a wide-open battle. This competition is defined by a lack of elite separation. Neither quarterback has managed to force the hand of the staff through purely overwhelming performance. Instead, the narrative is being driven by the gradual accumulation of experience for the younger candidate. The coaching staff is clearly looking for a signal that either player can stabilize the unit. For the Dawg Pound, the focus will be on whether Shedeur Sanders can maintain the momentum he built during the final days of OTAs. His connection with playmakers like Isaiah Bond provides a preview of what the offense might look like under his command. Conversely, Deshaun Watson must demonstrate an ability to transcend the inconsistencies that have plagued his recent practice appearances. The fact that the head coach is not willing to commit to a date for naming a starter suggests that the organization is comfortable letting this tension play out, even if it creates uncertainty heading into the summer months. The ability of either quarterback to minimize errors during the high-pressure environment of the final minicamp will be the deciding factor in how the roster is perceived when training camp finally kicks off. The stakes for this specific 3-day block have never been higher for the active roster. Looking ahead to the conclusion of the minicamp, the status of the quarterback competition will determine the narrative surrounding the team during the quiet period of mid-July. The organization faces a unique situation where a second-year quarterback is actively challenging a veteran who is owed $46 million in the final year of his contract. This financial reality, while significant for the balance sheet, is currently secondary to the performance-based competition being observed on the practice field. The development of Shedeur Sanders is the most dynamic element of this story. Regardless of who is named the starter for Week 1, the trajectory of this competition suggests that Shedeur Sanders will likely play a significant role for the Cleveland Browns before the season concludes. His progress since the major trade involving Myles Garrett and Jared Verse has been a primary focal point for the franchise's internal development. As the team wraps up its work in Berea on June 11th, the decision on the starter may remain pending, but the work put into the offensive scheme will be finalized. The players will then have until mid-July to digest the concepts before the intensity of camp resumes. For the coaching staff, this window of time is about gathering enough evidence to make a calculated choice. The consistency of Shedeur Sanders in the face of this opportunity to move past the veteran has transformed the offseason narrative. The Browns are navigating a transition where the potential for a change in leadership under center is not just a possibility, but a reality reflected in the daily rotation of snaps. As the dust settles on the mandatory sessions, the competition between these two signal callers will remain the most critical factor for the organization as it moves toward the official start of the season.